I'm going to do that in one slide.
Okay, cool.
Tonight, this was an introduction to advertising and communication. I want to do two things today. One is I wanted to try and be informative, and the other was try and be useful. And let's see at the end of it if I managed to do that. But do feedback, and we'll see if we can do something that's a little bit interactive if you've got questions at the end. But I've really structured this to try and think about what might be helpful and interesting. And one of the parts of that is just tell you how I think about advertising and marketing. And the other is that there's some quite practical stuff at the end, or just the kinds of jobs that exist in advertising and marketing that might be useful. So as we get into it, just a bit about me. I've worked at really two agencies over the course of about 20 years, as Darren said. You will not have necessarily heard of an advertising agency called Leo Burnett, and you may not have heard of another advertising agency called Adam and Eve DDB. But on the screen, I've just put some of the clients that I've worked with over that time. So whether it's the likes of, as you said, of Samsung, Booking.com, Google, Sony, Marmite, Amnesty International, Skyscanner, Fiat. There's just a bit of a flavour of the breadth of clients that I've worked with. And sorry, it feels a bit self-indulgent to say it. This isn't me trying to show off, although it will come across like that. But it's more just to say there's a library of experiences which I've tried to condense down into tonight, which can be applied to any of these brands. And I think the most exciting probably brands at the moment are going to be the startups, and probably the brands that don't exist now, but we will hear of in a few years' time, and maybe even brands that you guys want to start and develop for your own. But there's some theory behind this which could be helpful. I wanted to start by, if we were together in a room, I'd probably make people stand up and kind of raise their hands. But I really wanted to start with a question, which was, how many advertising messages are seen by the average person every day? And the answer to this is, this is non-scientific. There's lots of different studies on it, but I think we won't be able to replicate it precisely. But the answer really lies around a very, very big number. I put down 8,000. That's what I found from a recent study. If we'd asked this question about 20 years ago, the answer would have been about 4,000. And that's a huge number of messages. And whether that's something that's coming through on your iPhone, something that you're seeing as you're browsing, something that you're walking down the street seeing as a poster in a magazine, wherever, Facebook, Instagram news feeds, all the rest of it, there's just thousands and thousands of messages that are hitting us every single day. And of those, the theory goes is that we might only pay attention to 52 of them. And then of those 52, they might actually only read, listen, watch, engage with 24, really loosely, 24. And of those 24, they probably dislike 14 of them. And then of the 10 that remain, they may only remember 4. And, sorry, 4 of the ones they like, sorry. They may only like 4 of them. And I guess there's a really big question in that, which is, can any of us remember 4 ads you liked yesterday? And I think it's a really good question, because that's what, when you're working on the other side of this, when you're working in marketing and advertising, there's so much stuff out there. We talk about, there's like landfill almost for advertising. There's so much stuff that you just, sorry, there was something that was sent in the post, it's like things that you pick up and you probably just chuck in the bin. There's so much stuff that we see and we just discard. But that's really is one of the biggest challenges that we've got in the marketing communications business, is trying to get something that people will actually see, remember, like, and engage with. So there's a guy who writes this slightly verbose quote, but I thought it was interesting anyway, just to make the point. A guy called Bill Burback, and he founded an agency back in the 1930s that went on to do some amazing work, and it still exists today. And this was him saying this 70 years ago, which was, the truth isn't the truth until people believe you. They can't believe you if they don't know what you're saying, and they can't know what you're saying if they don't listen to you, and they won't listen to you if you're not interesting, and you won't be interesting unless you say things imaginatively, originally, and freshly. And essentially what this boils down to is that normal people don't care about ads, and our job is to try and get people to be a bit interested in a brand or a product, and that's the challenge in a nutshell, because people really don't care about ads or products, even though people like me who have been in the industry love it and we're obsessed by it. Normal people don't. So that's a really good start point when we're thinking about campaigns. And if any of you guys want to start your own businesses or think about that, it's a really good start point, which is that, you go from the basis that you need to do something which is going to capture people's attention, get them interested, and engage them with your message, and then hopefully they will buy what you're selling. So I think about the communication task, and so when I say communication task, I suppose that's the job of advertising, communication, or it could be PR, could be making ads, whatever it is. There's really three phases to it, and this is pretty universal. So I would apply this if I was working on some promo on TikTok, if I was making a TV commercial, a big campaign, or a PR stunt for a brand. I really think about three different phases, and the first one is understand who you're talking to, and that could sometimes be harder than you think, because sometimes you don't actually know who you want to buy your product. We might think you want certain group of people to buy them, but really pinning down and understanding who you're talking to, it's quite a hard thing to do, and that takes a bit of thought and preparation. And the second thing, which is really important, is to create a distinctive brand, to do something different, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But really the biggest challenge of the world today is that so many brands are just the same and people are copycat, but how do you do something that makes you different and distinctive? And then the third thing is to deliver your message in a compelling way, and that's about doing it freshly, something that feels interesting, innovative, cool, and that's really the third task. So that's really how I've structured what I'm about to go through with you guys today. And do shout if there's any questions as we go through. I know that may not be quite so straightforward, but do pipe up, and I'll pause for a second.
No, so there's a chat box. If anyone has any questions as they go through, they can put it in the chat box.
Awesome. I can't see the chat box as I'm presenting, but if you can, maybe Darren, just let me know if a question comes up, and I'll pause for a moment.
All right, no problem.
So the first thing was understand what makes someone tick. What is it about them? What's going on in their world? And we talk about insights. So find what are the things that help us understand what's going on in people's lives, that will find a way to connect with the brand. And that can be, at this time, maybe we're there's something about, clearly the world in which we're operating in is a big, there's a big theme going on with COVID, and there's themes of Brexit, there's themes of unemployment, there's all sorts of things which are going to be on people's minds. And so really thinking about when you think about what makes people tick, there's big stuff like that which may not be particularly relevant if you're selling an iPhone, but there's a backdrop to that. But I think it's finding out what's going to make what you can do as a brand, and how that connects with someone, and what's going on in their everyday life. And these are really precious nuggets that brands want to tap into. And I think you know, for any of us, there are moments where a brand does something and you're like, that connects with me, that really resonates with me, because maybe it's an attitude that they've got where they're speaking up for a certain cause. And I think at the moment, you know, in the wake of COVID, there's a lot of brands that are trying to do things that are useful to people and trying to help people. And that's a way of kind of connecting with people. But very often when you think about brands or whether it's campaigns or ads or something that a brand has done, there'll be something in it where you're like, that speaks to me, or that connects with me in some sort of way. And it's a bit like, you know, I think whenever you've listened to a really good stand-up comedian, some of the things that they say, you're like, yeah, that's it, that's me. And I've not thought about it in that way, but and it's hilarious because maybe they've held up a mirror to something that's going on in my life that I hadn't really thought about. And that's the sort of thing that we tend to look at. And I thought I might just play a couple of ads. This may not work because of the way how fast the refresh rates are and everything. So we'll try it, and if it doesn't work, let me know. But this was a launch for FIFA 2018, which the first time that FIFA was trying to really think about what people were doing, how they played the game, how gamers played versus what was going on in real life. And what tended to happen was that the game took inspiration from real life and what was going on with the players and how good they were and what they were doing. And this was the first time where they said, actually, how do we create a move that we can put into the game? And there's a special move that a player can do that we're going to create, and then that is going to be we're going to put it out into the world afterwards. And this was all around player behavior, the mastery of a skill, mastery of a move was a bit of behavior that people wanted to have. They wanted to find out how they could have a special sequence of with the control pads that they could create a special move. So that's where this came from. So let me see if I can play it, and if it works. And Darren, let me know if this does work, or we'll share it afterwards.
Will do. Yeah, it's working.
Cool.
Oh. Not the smoothest, but we get the gist.
Okay. And let me know if it's getting a bit painful, because it's actually quite long, but if it's not playing too smoothly, just let me know.
Yeah, it's not playing it smoothly.
Okay. Do you know what? I'm just going to pause it and just explain it. Basically, what they've done is they've put a move into the game, and you'll see it's called El Tornado. And what could happen was that fans could just get engaged around it to try and find out the sequence to allow them to unlock the actual the play. And then as part of the PR launch for it, they got Ronaldo to actually perform the kick, so that he was part and parcel of it, and he was part of the press launch for it. And it just caused a huge amount of awareness for the game, an interest in it, as they got like lots of gamers and influencers just to start planting and sowing the seeds for it. So it's just one of those great kind of insights into what it was like for the players, that they then brought to life in the game. The other one, because I wasn't sure if these would play, was just another great bit of, this was a bit of data that Spotify had, where this was launched a couple of years ago, 2016, and they actually got the data from real people's listening habits on Spotify, and then they just made some kind of amusing headlines for it. So this was around Valentine's Day. Dear person who played sorry 42 times on Valentine's Day, what did you do? And that was just like a really interesting way of kind of talking about what Spotify could do, by, you know, the fact that they had all the data on people, and could just talk about, you know, people's listening habits and shine a light on it. But there was something just really powerful in what they were doing there. This next film is actually, this is a film which I'm not going to play because it won't, but when you see this afterwards, this was a film that we did for a male suicide prevention charity called Calm, and it was raising awareness of the fact that 84 men a week take their lives through suicide,